Today we're going to talk about some of the ways to make some healthy filled Kong treats. I'm just going to demonstrate a few of the DIY things that I do with Dexter. But since I'm going to be using some food and talking to you guys, Dexter is over here and he's being very patient right now. But I know he's going to want to eat snacks. So, yeah, you heard that word snack. So I do have one of his frozen snacks already. So I will go ahead and let him chomp on that. Here we go. And he does have his snoot on while I bring the camera over to our table today. And here are some of the goodies that we're going to use to fill some of Dexter's Kongs. Alright, so with Dexter's Kongs, I know that some of you have seen on Dexter's, or I should say my personal page, where I've unthawed some frozen snacks and people are like, what's that? What's in it? So basically for me, what I do is I use healthy foods that are good for Dexter, and I make frozen little cubes, and then I just kind of rotate them in each day. So each day Dexter gets a handful of frozen Kongs to snack on during what we call his yappy hour. And the way I do that is I just, whatever is good for Dexter, whether or not it's just leftover from when I'm making one of his DIY dog foods, or if I'm going, all right, this is something interesting in the grocery store, and we'll take that. So today I have, let's see, how can I do this without getting too messy? I do have some bone broth over here. And I always have stocked bone broth, and what I do with it is when I make a big batch, I again get lots of ice cube trays, and I will freeze bits of bone broth in there, and then again stick it in the freezer, and I pull out little bits. We also have today some raw goat milk, so we're going to be using that today as well. Great for digestion, soothes the gut, and it's much easier to digest than cow's milk, so we use goat milk, not cow's milk. And then we have today, so these are our cranberries. So, and everything, you know, the goat's milk, antibiotic, hormone-free. The cranberries are organic. And I'm going to reach in here, but I did buy Dexter some, do we see it here? I know it's going to be a little red because it's been sitting in the cranberries, but I did buy Dexter some duck eggs, and I did boil them up. And so what I did, so again, this is kind of what I do, is I boiled up, it came 6 duck eggs, so I boiled them up. I kept one here for today's demo, and then the other 3, after I peeled them, I shoved in the freezer, so that when again I'm looking at filling Dexter's Kongs, I might go, it's time for a duck egg, and so I'll pull it out of the freezer, let it thaw, get little bits, and put it in his Kongs. The other thing that I have today is we have some sprouts, and these are actually radish sprouts, and again organic. And so radish helps resolve phlegm, it moves the chi, which is your dog's energy, our energy as well. They are spicy because they're radish. Dexter loves spicy. I was offering them to him and he was gobbling them up, no problem at all. And I'm just going to hit a quick little refresh here to see how we are on our live. And let's see. I can hear him over there slurping away. Okay, so I will peek over here, and if you are on, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. If I don't see it live, I will come back as always and check through it. So what I'm going to do, and there's no, oh, and I almost forgot. So I do have my peeled ginger root. So ginger is another great addition for the gut health and digestion, and a lot of these, like the ginger, the bone broth, the cranberries, are actually good for brain health too and neurological conditions. So with Dexter and his cari malformation, it's a great addition for him. The ginger root is also warming too, so that's great in the winter. And let's see, So I don't have a recipe that I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is, let's see, do I want to make a couple? So I'm gonna take Dexter's cranberries here, and the cranberries, I did already boil them, and they've been cooled. I actually did this yesterday. So I did boil them down. So when you take raw cranberries, they're going to be like those hard little things, and you're going to boil them down until you hear them starting to burst and get soft. So I'm going to put some of those in here. And I'm looking right now, I'm kind of looking, let's see how this camera looks. Can you see it? Okay. Yeah, well, let's give you a little spin down here for the camera. Ooh. So I'm looking at the size too to make sure that they're going to be bite size for Dexter, and they are pretty small and they're pretty smushy. If you'd like, you can also take your mix and you can stick it in a blender and mix it all up as well. I'm just going to go ahead and put maybe half of these cranberries in there. And if your dog has any medical issues or they have certain food allergies, obviously you can use what's good for your dog. If you have multiple dogs and one dog can have one thing, one dog can't have the other, you can make notes when you freeze them so you know what you have. Dexter's just mine, so it's not a real big concern when it comes time for me to thaw this food on what's what. So I'm going to take his goat milk and, I don't know, about like that. So we have a nice little soupy thing going on here. When I do make Dexter's Kongs, sometimes it's literally I'm just putting bits of fruits and vegetables in there, and then I'm filling the Kong with water or bone broth or goat's milk that I already have fresh, so you can do that too. There's really kind of no rhyme and reason for me and Dexter. So I'm going to take that. We got the cranberries, which are cooling. Goat's milk's actually warming versus cow's milk. And then I'm going to, and it is winter, so I'm going to take a little bit of the ginger, and I have a little grater over here, and I'm going to go ahead and just grate up some fresh ginger in there. And again, remember, Dexter, no problem with the hot spicy. He likes his hot and spicy. So you can see I got a little bit of that ginger. I'm just going to plop it in there. So this is going to be a really good one for his brain health, and ooh, I can smell that it smells good. And depending on what you're using, you know, if you're using foods that you like and you can eat, you can stick these in your smoothies too. So, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go, let's see, we'll make this really hot. I'll do the whole, not the whole thing. So back to these sprouts. If you're familiar, I did not grow these myself, so I did buy them in our health store, and they come in that nice little kind of square-ish container. So besides what I just pulled in here, the other sprouts are in the freezer already. So when I get fresh fruits, you know, I make them into the bite size, I throw them in the freezer so that I can use them for later. So all his other sprouts are in the freezer. So there we have that. Okay, that looks good. So you can do a couple of things. If I were making Dexter his actual Kong right now, there's different shapes, different sizes. This is one of his Kongs. And let's see, I'll show you here. See it? Goes like that. So it's not too deep. So it's easier to use than, say, this Kong, which can be really challenging for some of them. And your dog is just going to be different on what they do. Dexter finds this easier to navigate. This one he finds very frustrating. He actually can get his little bottom jaw stuck in there as well. He does not panic over it. Everything's always supervised, so I can pull that off. No big deal. This is the one that's been my go-to for the last couple of years. I'll send links and put links and everything. I have a feeling that this one is going to start to be discontinued. It might even be discontinued now because it's really a challenge to find them. So I'll give that link. So if you like them, scoop them up now. But this past couple of months, what I've noticed with Dexter, with this Kong, and some of his Kongs, he's really starting to dig at it with his teeth. Which makes me a little nervous, so I'm going to see if I can show you here. So what I started to do is, instead of filling it all the way to the top, is I've been filling it halfway, and that's actually, for whatever reason, preventing him from really wanting to chaw on it so much. So we can just go ahead and fill. For Dexter, we're gonna, I don't know if I'll be able to show you without dripping it all over, but we're gonna fill about halfway. And I tend to, when I fill Dexter's Kongs, I do them at night. so that I can shove them in the freezer and not worry about anyone needing to get in the freezer. And then I place all of his Kongs on a cookie sheet so that I can kind of keep them straight and together. So that would be how I would fill one Kong. For today, what I'm going to do is fill different cubes, so different trays, so that I have cubes. So I fill the different trays, and then, let's see, how can we see this for you, although you probably know what it looks like to fill an ice cube tray. But so I fill different trays, and I freeze them, and then once they're frozen, then I pop them out, and then I put them in a container. So that again, what I end up with Dexter is I have a bunch of frozen snacks that are healthy for him, and I can pretty much know what's inside of them just because I make them, and it's not like I make thousands of them at a time. So I can kind of pick and choose which ones I want to make sure that I rotate. As you probably know, I'm a huge rotator. I rotate everything. I rotate all the foods Dexter eats. I rotate all the places I get those foods, so he's not getting the same thing from the same manufacturer, the same farm over and over. It's from different farms, different manufacturers, different foods, different meats. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And so like this last little cubie here, I could just freeze it like that, or what I'll probably end up doing is this next little mix, I'll probably put it into something else. So can you see? So there's some cubies. I'm going to set it to the side for now, and that's the goat's milk one. Now, again, Dexter, does not matter what's inside because he's perfectly healthy and happy, can eat everything. So I'm just going to dump, I'm not going to worry about cleaning that, I'm just going to dump his bone broth for his liquid. And I'll plop it out here. Bone broth is another good thing for the gut. Both bone broth and the goat's milk are things that you can give your dog if they have like an upset stomach. So if you get like diarrhea, you can say, all right, well, let's not feed food for the day. Let's go ahead and give you this and kind of give you some nutrients and let your gut heal a little bit. Bone broth is also good for the joints and again, good brain health. So what I'll do next is, let's see, I'm going to sneak this back over here a little bit. I'm going to go to my little cutter and I'm going to grab that egg. So I'm going to grab that duck egg right here, and again, that's just the cranberries, and I'm just going to dice it, smoosh it around, make sure I don't get that whole ginger in there. I want to make sure these are bite size. They are small, especially if he's going to pull them out frozen, but by the time I freeze with a liquid, it tends to be one kind of solid mass anyway, but I do try to make sure that they're but I do make sure they're nice and small. Alrighty, are we small yet? Bite size. Okay, so all besides the ginger, I'm gonna go ahead and dump. Whoops! I should have had a bigger spoon. Dump that in. Okay. All right. I don't like it. Although I did have a omelet today, thanks to my stepdad, but I still don't like eggs. I still try. So there's our egg and our bone broth, and let's see. I can take his other little Kong here, and I can fill this up. So this will end up, we are live at what, 1:35. So this will probably be for tomorrow. It won't be frozen enough for tonight. So these will be his tomorrow Yappy Hour snacks. So there's quite a bit of egg in there. Let's see if you can see. See in there? So I'm going to put I can just do it like that. So I can do mostly chunks of egg frozen, and then it's definitely going to come out super, super easy. But I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that bone broth liquid to make sure it's getting in there. And that's going to make it more solid and a little more challenging for him to get. And just be a little careful. And again, for Dexter at the moment, we're filling halfway full. So he, for whatever reason, tends to lick it more than chomp on it. And then over on my cookie sheet. And again, the cookie sheet is just there so that it will stabilize it when it's in the freezer. So I'm going to pull back, again, my regular ice cube trays. that had the cranberry mixture. You see that there? And is that in the way? No, okay. And I'm just gonna, we had that 1/2 cranberry thing, I'm gonna shove that in there anyway. Because I don't care, again, as long as it's healthy and happy for Dexter, healthy and happy. And then the other ones are gonna get filled with the bone broth and the duck egg. And once these are frozen, I will pop them out and put them in a container and then thaw them. I don't really know what it is. Maybe the container is a cup, and I'll throw some cubes in there and thaw it, and then that's what I fill. So when these are frozen and then I thaw them, when they're thawed is what I fill my Kongs with. And I don't have one to demonstrate that. So we're just filling this up. And we're just going to pour that. And pour that. And I'm surprised actually Dexter's not over there snorting. Alright, so you see that? We'll just do a little move. So there is one ice cube tray full of stuff. And I'm on my kitchen table just because it was a little bigger than our counters. And you have the fancy little trays like that you can use, especially if you're doing anything for a party. I do tend to use the regular ice cube trays, only because I know that a standard ice cube tray, for the most part, is 2 tablespoons. So that just kind of gives me an idea that when I'm unfreezing them, I kind of know how much is in there for whatever reason. Alright, so we got that. I'm going to go ahead and finish off these cranberries because, again, I want to get rid of these cranberries. I want to refreeze them. I can take these cranberries and just plop them in the container all by themselves to be frozen and thaw later. I think since I have some goat milk, I know my very first one was goat milk and cranberries, but I'm going to go ahead and do that for the second one as well. I'm going to save that other goat milk for later. For this week, let Dexter chomp on that this week. Just give it a little stir. Since I did the ginger on the other one, I might as well go ahead and make this whole recipe the same. So I'll go ahead and, oops, smush some ginger in this one. I guess it'll be different because I won't have the sprouts in this one. But again, for me, it doesn't matter. If it matters to you, just write it down so you know what you're doing. Ooh, that smells good. And I don't think I particularly love ginger. I'm not a spicy person like Dexter. He does not take after his mom that way. So a little stir. This one's going to be a little thicker. That's okay. And I'll just fill those cubes up. Got this weird, maybe you guys can tell me. I have this ice cube tray. Now that it's already filled up, I can't show you. And this side and this side and this side and this side has a slit so that when this is full it'll run over to this side, which makes sense to me. But what doesn't make sense to me is why it's not like that on all of them. Why just the ends? Because I think it would be good for all of them, but why just the ends? Alright, so this is going to take care of my cranberry goops. And the cranberries I actually have had in my freezer for a little while. I snagged them up during the Thanksgiving holiday because I had some fresh organic, I shouldn't say fresh because they're coming out of the bag, but organic cranberries. And they were on sale because of the holiday, and I just grabbed a few bags and threw them in the freezer. I hear Dexter moving around over there. And we got a little bit more. And he won't be getting these, you know, every day. I'll obviously know what these cranberry ones are. It's so obvious in there. But when I'm opening up the mix of his foods and thawing them, I'll go, okay, this one's cranberry. He hasn't had cranberry for a while. It's time to have some cranberry. I want to show you the red Kong. So this is the classic Kong, the typical, way back when I started dog training, that all the Kongs. Theo, my golden, 20 plus years ago, this was all he ate. I would fill it full of good things like this, not as good as Dexter because I didn't know as much then. And then I would freeze it, and then I'd give it to Theo, and it would take him about, this is a large, it'd take him about 30 minutes to sit there and chew and eat it. And that was really good. He really liked it. Dexter, like I mentioned, he gets more frustrated with it being so hard to do. So I started to fill it, you know, a quarter of the way, lay it down like this, butt it up against some other things, and froze like the bottom. He thought that was better, but he still wasn't terribly impressed. So it's not my go-to. I'm actually going to order some other ones too, like the one I showed at the beginning. Dexter likes it. So here's Mr. Dexter boy. If I am going to freeze this Kong like this, it's got a hole there, see it? So I'll put a skewer in there, and that'll block it, and then fill it. And then I can pull out that skewer. And the reason I started to pull out the skewer is so that it does give a little bit of that air, so that some of the dogs getting themselves stuck in there because there's no airflow in there. And then you put it in something like a glass. So it's like that, and then you can fill it. So that's Dexter's Kong stuffing for the weekend. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm going to add some links here in just a minute. I'm also going to put the link to our Facebook Live topics, so the things that you want to hear about. So thanks for joining, and have a good Saturday. Thanks for watching today, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and click the bell for all notifications. Videos will be updated regularly. For more helpful information, you can go to my website, raisingyourpetsnaturally.com, which is full of information on how to raise your pets naturally, dog-friendly travel, and product reviews. We will see you next time.